our store, welcome back, and if it's your first time here, welcome in. Some housekeeping before we begin. If you pre-ordered a book, it will be available for pickup at the back counter at the end of the event. If you'd like to purchase one or many, you can do that then right there as well. Every purchase supports your local independent bookstore and allows us to keep hosting wonderful events like these, so thank you. Just so you know, tonight's event is being live streamed on YouTube from our iPad over here. We try to keep audience members out of frame as a rule, but if you don't want to be on the live stream, just don't walk in front of the iPad. Our author tonight is Lori Lobenstine. Lori is a Lori is co-founder of the Design Studio for Social Intervention, member of the Hot Flashes basketball team, and founder of the website Female Sneaker Fiend. Her previous nonfiction books include Girls Got Kicks and Ideas, Arrangements, Effects, Systemic Change, and Social Justice. She lives in Boston and has her BA in American Studies from Wesleyan University. Lori and her goddaughter, Sophie Canon, have been collaborating on the original Barking Puppy newspaper since Sophie was 10 years old. The Barking Puppy is Lori's first children's book, and Sophie was her creative consultant, contributing her lived experiences as well as her keen ear for youth dialogue and an uncanny blend of human and dog humor. Tonight we are here to celebrate the release of Lori and Sophie's children's book, The Barking Puppy, illustrated by Il-Sung Na. When Sophie and her two Jack Russell Terriers moved to Boston, she's excited not to be the only brown kid in the neighborhood anymore. She instantly likes the quirky teenager named Juno next door and her pug Bonnie. But not everything is easy. Her classmates make fun of her Vermont overalls. The upstairs neighbor hates barking, and Bonnie needs surgery that Juno's family can't afford. So Sophie and Juno invent The Barking Puppy, the first ever newspaper written by dogs for dogs. Will anyone else get how funny it is? And more importantly, can they sell it to raise enough money in time to save Bonnie? Will the landlord kick Sophie and her mom out before they even get started? Please join me in welcoming Lori Lobenstine and Sophie Canon.
Thanks for that great intro.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, you gotta turn them on.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, we didn't move the computer, so actually maybe you could just advance it if we say advance. It's good now, but we might.
Exactly, I got it.
Awesome, perfect. So I'll start at the beginning. How many of y'all love dogs? Good, excellent. How many of you have dogs? Woo! All right, awesome. How many of you are dogs? All right. So Sophie and I have been dogs since she was very, very young. It started with Blossom Fiona Puppy. It's an imaginary game where Blossom Fiona Puppy began as a really naughty puppy. I was the owner. I was the one who got up every morning and bathed her before work. This is not a practice I have with Summit, as y'all know. And then I would go to work and she would be a naughty puppy and roll in the mud, and then I'd have to bathe her every night. And you know, when you're little, like, that is funny every single time. We played Blossom Fiona Puppy, the naughty puppy, for a long time. And after a while, I got to be Pookie Puppy, her pal, who also rolled in the mud. So that was a little more fun. But I noticed as Sophie started reading chapter books, when I would visit, it was like we were moving on to the next book. So Blossom Fiona Puppy became a traveling singing dog, a little preview of the Jimmy's Traveling All-Stars. And Blossom Fiona Puppy became a spy dog, a delivery dog,
Exactly.
a circus dog.
Which is almost a little tease of book 2. Oh, we'll get there soon.
That's right. So some of these pictures you can see from our early days. Sophie's drawing there at the top, demonstrating, as usual, Lori never in a dress, Sophie always in a dress in the early years. And some of y'all remember Herschel there. Aww.
And making it clear that dogs are not easy to draw, which is, of course, stated in the first chapter.
That's right. Sophie and Lori with our sneaker collection. And in the book, I thought, having a godmother as a main character, that's a little dull, like being a grown-up and all. So you see that Juno, the teenager, has a sneaker collection. So a little bit of that. Sophie swinging from the tree because Sophie is, as soon as she moves to Boston in the book, she's looking for her climbing tree and her reading tree. And then over here, I do think this is the only photo documentation of the dog circus when Blossom Fiona Puppy was starting a dog circus. So really fun to find that.
Exactly. Deep 2012 cut.
That's right, that's right. So when Sophie was about 10, I think we could hit the next slide, right? We graduated from Blossom Fiona Puppy to
Exactly. To making the Barking Puppy newspaper. It was 2015, I was in 5th grade, and Lori came up to take care of me during winter break. My mom was working at the clinic and, well, couldn't sled and spend all our time in the snow. So we spent all of our time around my big farm dining room table making the first ever Barking Puppy newspaper, which with the 5 following years, there were 7 more editions made. And so for the newspaper, we put down a few crown details we knew we'd return to, aka always having 6 pages. The front page having the national news, similar to the Boston Globe does. And in our all-star edition of the Barking Puppy, which is like all 7 editions conglomerated into one, which is the one that we create in the book, we have the front page edition being Borders Against Borders, the Border Collie protest at the border wall. Also the NRA, the National Retrievers Association, calls for gun control because guns take the fun out of hunting. You know, always finding the dog perspective of things, thinking like dogs, being dogs. And we always had the local news.
should we introduce our alter ego?
Exactly. Boom. Being dogs. Okay, I was Bob Smarty. That was the name I gave myself. Don't remember why I chose that. And Lori is Ramona the reporter, a bloodhound with the nose for the news. And then we have the local news, featuring what dogs might think of, well, you know, what they think of the local news. We always have the dog on the street, aka any questions about baths, vet visits, how do you feel about moving?
New Year's resolutions.
Mm-hmm. And we also have, stories like local dog rescue stray family. The dog found a family without a dog and, well, knew the dog had to take the family in. And also, we have the games and entertainment page. Mm-hmm. So Hamilton, the Broadway musical. Also, new stand-up comedian has dogs rolling in the aisles from laughter. Mm-hmm.
Funny Bunny is known for her sharp political commentary. Fleas wouldn't live on Trump. This was an old issue, first round.
Yeah. Cutting it even back then. That was from 2016. And then we have the sports page. Dogs doing all sorts of sports, like the Chihuahuas versus Great Danes in baseball tournament. Chihuahuas won, by the way. Dogs paddleboarding in Cape Cod. Eleanor Rigby winning the skateboard competition. Dogs skiing. Dogs doing yoga and meditating when their owners are out. The unthinkable, but the reality of, the dog writers and reporters. Mm-hmm. And also, we have the classifieds. Ads selling to other dogs. So not, selling leashes. No, that would be a dog's worst nightmare. Let's think like a dog. Dogs selling perfume for humans to make the humans smell better. Like, what if your human smelled like, dead chipmunk or peanut butter? Mm-hmm. More appealing for sure. Or the VR goggles. Bored when your human's out at work? Put on the VR goggles and go hunting in the woods. You never know.
So after a while, we have our first guest dog. Odie's here.
Yay!
After a while, when we'd done our first 6 Barking Puppy, Buy Dogs, 4 Dogs newspapers, we thought, let's branch out. We made the Street Buffet Go Puppy board game based on Sushi Go, and anyone played Sushi Go? We had one of those vacation weeks we were playing Sushi Go all the time, and we're like, we could do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could be collecting points from your street buffet. Our definition of the street buffet, a meal consisting of discarded dishes or bags or plates on the street or sidewalk in which guests serve themselves. Some of y'all who have walked with me in Summit might be familiar with our street buffet. Like, Summit, why would you take me to the street buffet and not let me eat all the dishes? So here, you collected things like pizza crusts and curly fries.
Which get you 6 points, 3 points, or the leash card, -5 points.
Exactly.
And then we upgraded again. we said, let's make a coffee table book. And our coffee table book is a travel guide. So exploring all over the United States, what dogs would find, or it's the street buffet around the United States. Let's get specific. So dumpster diving and triple decker dumpsters in Jamaica Plain, or of course the BBQ down south, sandwiching in Cape Cod. Any ones I'm forgetting that are really good?
Or the dirty dog selling dirty dogs in New York City.
That one's funny. Yeah, exactly. I knew I was forgetting something good. And that's one of my best drawings I fear I've done in the barking puppy experience, because I'm just really proud of the station wagon of dogs, especially our main characters holding it down in the back, Summit and Eleanor and Baba. Also, I just thought it was really funny to have a tiny driver and a really huge co-pilot, you know, subvert expectations. Mm-hmm.
So, want to introduce a few more of the real life characters, humans and dogs. There's Sophie with her mom, Melanie, and the two dogs. That's Alibaba and Eleanor Rigby in both of those photos, and one of the original overall pairs.
Mm-hmm.
There is Rudy and, of course, me there. Bonnie and Summit and the famous treat drawer right there. And Rue, who is in the book My Dog.
Mm-hmm.
And did I miss anybody?
And let's go over a few characters that aren't pulled from real life that you should know about, that are about to appear in our read aloud, happening very soon. We have Linda, the upstairs neighbor.
AKA the arch enemy.
Exactly. And we like to do something fun with the names of the arch enemies. Care to add some insight?
Oh yeah, we always name the arch enemies after our ex-girlfriends. Linda was my first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, just get ready. The arch enemy in book 2 takes a whole step up. It gets serious, but we're not there yet. And we also have Juno, the teenager that Sophie befriends, that represents both Lori's role that she played in my life and also me as I've grown older and have, because I was 14 when you started writing this book.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I'm 20.
Sophie was becoming a teenager as I wrote it, so it was really neat to think about how good she was with younger kids, the way Juno was really good with this younger new neighbor.
Exactly. Okay, we ate that up.
Yeah, I think that's all they need to know for the chapter. You can see Bella and Malik are there, they're friends in school, and Carlos.
Mm-hmm. And shout out to Il Sung Na, our illustrator. Mm-hmm.
Sally.
Yes.
Oh.
One more thing. I narrated the audiobook. It was really fun, and thank God Lori was there with me, because it was just so great to hear, some sentences, how would I deliver this? How did Lori, imagine this being delivered? And also, my voice is very cheery, so, it was just some of the more serious chapters. It was a little bit of a challenge, so it was a new experience. And it's coming out on May 29th, and found the date yesterday, so thanks, Anne. Okay, let's get into it. We're going to read you chapter 12, which is called Summit Names the Newspaper.
And I will say, as we get started, we're going to read the chapter, and then we'll do a little Q&A, and we'll be available to sign books as well. Sophie is going to be the narrator, of course, because she is the narrator. I'm going to be the voices that aren't Sophie.
Mm-hmm. Chapter 12. Summit Names the Newspaper. On my way to school the next Monday, I bump into Juno and Bonnie on their steps. Bonnie immediately comes over and sits on my foot, which Juno explains means she really likes me. Juno, guess what? I say. My mom just told me she's going to a conference in New York this weekend, and my godmother Lori is staying with me. She's an editor at the Boston Globe, and she's going to take me there for a tour. I bet I'll get some ideas for our paper.
That's awesome. You'll learn all the behind-the-scenes workings that we need to know. Meanwhile, I'm learning more about our future customers. I'm up to the sea breeds on the pet finder list. Let's see. There's Catahoula leopard dog, cattle dog, Caucasian Ovcharka shepherd dog, Cavapoo, Chesapeake Bay retriever, Chihuahua, and get this, there's a hairless dog. It's called a Chinese hairless crested.
Just then, Bonnie stands up and begins coughing violently. Poor thing. She is coughing so hard she goes up onto her tippy toes.
Can you get that barking puppy to be quiet? She's scaring Elvis.
It's Linda again! She's coming up the driveway from our backyard, and speaking of hairless, she has Elvis on a leash, her hairless cat. does look scared. His giant ears are laid flat back on his head. His enormous eyes are open really wide, and he's doing a kind of slow motion walk like he did in front of Summit's house. But the craziest thing about him is his wrinkly pink skin. Ugh, it's even weirder looking up close.
Look, Linda,
Says Juno.
Bonnie is coughing, not barking, okay? Can you give us a break?
Well,
Ooh, that's me. Well, that's an awful sound, and Elvis really needs his exercise.
Linda tosses back the long bangs that flop from one side of her head to the other. This is when it hits me that Linda has one side of her head shaved bald and has a bald cat. I suddenly picture Elvis with Linda's crooked hairdo, shaved on one side, longish on the other, with those floppy bangs over his big eyes. I start to giggle before I realize Linda is glaring at me.
And you, young lady,
Linda points her finger at me.
you need to keep your barking puppies quiet too. Do you know I hear them all day long? I'm gonna let our landlady know I cannot get my thesis writing done with your dogs disturbing me all day.
I'm really sorry. It must be when I'm at school. We didn't really have any neighbors in Vermont, so we didn't know,
Well, you have neighbors now, okay? And so do you, Juno.
she says, turning towards the original cause of her outburst. Then she stalks back down the driveway, with Elvis looking over his shoulder at us as he slow motion walks behind her. I look at Juno and Bonnie. I'm not sure what to say, so I squat down to pet Bonnie. Hey, Bon Bon, I hope you feel better soon. I can't believe she yelled at you for coughing. She really is a miserable muggle, plus that other word you called her,
Yeah, she's a mean-spirited millennial, all right.
agrees Juno.
And that's just wrong what she said about telling your landlady. I bet the Jack Russells barely bark.
What's a landlady? I ask.
That's the person who rented your apartment to your mom. She owns the house and decides who to rent it to.
Better tell my mom about that. We don't want to get into trouble. But, Juno, I say, suddenly remembering Elvis and his strange walk. That cat is creepy.
That's true, Shorty. Elvis definitely looks sinister. You know what that means? Menacing. You know what that means? Scary looking. Maybe if we ever need a cat villain for some front page news. But right now, I gotta get this girl inside. Let's work on our newspaper ideas more on Friday.
When Friday finally arrives, we have to tend to Summit before we can get to our paper. That includes belly rubbing, treat drawer, belly rubbing, walk, scoot, run, wait, walk, scoot, treat drawer, dinner, and nose rubbing. Only then does she settle under the dining room table and let us get to work. Then again, it didn't include any flips or blood, so that's good. We quickly come up with a list of possible names. 10 names for our dog newspaper.
1, the Boston Bark.
2, the Dog Daily.
3, the Daily Drool.
4, the Mutt Mail.
5, the Puppy Post.
6, the Tail Wagging Times.
7, the Chewing Chronicle.
8, the Good Dog Gazette.
9, the Sunday Stroll.
And 10, the Milkbone Evening News.
These are all good.
Says Juno.
How are we gonna choose?
I don't know. Want to pick your top 3 and I'll pick mine, I offer. Just then, Summit hears something we don't and explodes into loud barks right under the table. I got it, I say. Summit just gave me a great idea. Juno, what if we name it after our favorite neighbor? I start giggling before I can finish my thought.
You mean Summit?
No, Linda, I manage between snickers. We could call our newspaper The Barking Puppy. At that, we both crack up.
It's decided then.
Says Juno.
We are starting the Barking Puppy.
She stands up and puts her hand out to shake so we can shake on it, but when we get up to shake, Summit thinks it's time to get up too. She runs for the treat drawer, of course.
Summit, you're right as usual.
Says Juno, heading to the kitchen.
We need to celebrate, not just shake hands. Here's a pepperoni for you, the official namer of the Barking Puppy.
Summit immediately runs back under the table to enjoy her celebration privately.
Let's get back to the work at hand.
Says Juno.
We gotta start laying out what pages the Barking Puppy will have, and then we can pick what stories go on which page. Sound good?
Yeah, I think we should have the front page with the national news, like the Globe, and then a local news page. That's where we can put our dog on the street interviews.
Great idea.
Says Juno.
And we can have an entertainment page and a sports page. Oh, and a travel page. Maybe every issue will feature a new destination from the dog's perspective.
Totally. Maybe our first city can be Boston, since I'm sure my dogs would love to read some tips about where the best street buffets are. As I say that, I swear I see Summit's ears perk up.
Yum. But I think Summit and the Jack Russells would enjoy that more than Bonnie. She's a little more cultured, you know.
Juno giggles.
Speaking of culture, I think Bonnie will love the entertainment page. Are there any good buy dog, for dog movies in the theaters right now?
Well, now that you ask, I hear that the new Harry Potter is coming out. Get it? Harry?
I love it. Is it called Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Bone? Bonnie will definitely go see that. Anyway, which page do you want to start with?
If you don't mind, I think I'll start by designing the headers for each page. How about you?
I'll start with the local news.
Juno finds papers and marker, and we get busy. While I'm drawing the headers, Juno thinks of a great local news story, inspired by Rudy.
I'm gonna have a dog comedy school.
She explains to me.
Stand up, sit down comedy, get it? Can you help me think of a good name for the owner?
How about a Chihuahua who goes by Chahaha? I giggle.
I love-
Report section. Then we work on our first dog on the street question, which Juno decides should be, how do you feel about moving? To honor the Jack Russell's big move to Boston.
Okay, can you get the photo team out on the street to photograph these dogs?
Asks Juno. I switch off working on the front page header and get to drawing our subjects. Here's our first local news page, complete with our first ever dog on the street section. Let me get the next slide. Thanks, Spooky.
Look who's home.
When Rudy gets home, I notice something right away. I can't see the dog joke under her t-shirt because she's wearing overalls. Rudy, I like your overalls, I say, once we're in the kitchen.
Thanks, Sophie.
Says Rudy, opening the treat drawer and pulling out a sausage for Summit. I wear overalls too, sometimes,
On Tuesdays, right?
asks Rudy, winking at Juno. Yeah, I guess. I think about how I didn't wear them this week. I just didn't know any other brown people that wore them.
What? Girl, look at me.
Says Rudy, suddenly serious.
Don't let anybody yuck your yum, no matter what color they are. If you ask me, when I stopped letting white folks tell me what to do, I stopped letting brown folks tell me what to do, too.
The only one who tells you what to do is your dog.
Says Juno, gesturing at Summit, who's doing her best to tell Rudy to get her another sausage.
Haha, good one, Juno.
Says Rudy, getting Summit a second treat. Summit takes out her sausage under the dining room table to enjoy while we show Rudy our first completed page of The Barking Puppy.
Hey, you got a dog comedy school.
Rudy exclaims.
I love it. And who's this pug? She let her owner off leash and lost her? That's too much.
The way Rudy is laughing at all of our stories and reading her favorite lines out loud, it just makes me feel like we're on to something.
And you got Ellie Mae running a dog library? That beagle could sniff out an overdue book anywhere. That's perfect.
Juno and I look at each other and smile. It feels good to get such great feedback from our very first reader. And we've only finished one page.
So,
I sure did.
oh, all right.
I got one.
So now we can take a little Q&A and then we can do a little book signing. Yeah.
When I read it and also hearing it tonight, I go back to the question that just popped into my head, like, what was your creative process? Like, how did you guys have brainstorming sessions? Did this come out all your noggin more? Because I heard your voice knowing you through and through. So I'm just curious about the creative process behind all these double entendres and jokes and things like that.
It was a little different than the newspaper, right? Because we were always together to put together a whole issue of the Barking Puppy newspaper. And this one I thought, like, this would make a really cool story. Like, I would love to write this as a book. I checked in with Sophie about that. One of the things that was also going on at that time, which was really cool, was Sophie, as she was in high school, she got really into film. So she made a mini documentary about the newspaper and about the book while we were doing a week-long artist in residency at the Green Mountain Girls Farm. So we were actually putting together the All-Star Edition while she was documenting it and interviewing us. And so that is on our website and it's fun to check out. But along the way, since it took a few years, like there was definitely times that I would read her pieces or we would brainstorm, like, should we use our regular names? And Sophie said, yeah. I was like, where should it be located? I was thinking Lee because her mom was getting ready to move to Lee. And Sophie was like, nah, it should be in Boston. And then in general, like Sophie is so yes and, like she's really ready for, like improv style. Like I was like, is she ever gonna tell me if I'm off? And this was really important, as I was thinking about some of the ways she was experiencing racism and how that might come through the book. But the first time Sophie said, oh, no, it was when I thought I wanted Juno to have a nickname that sort of indicated that Juno was a teenager and understood that she was hanging out with someone younger than her, but that, she was into her as a young person. And so I was like, Juno will call her kiddo.
I was like, no, that's not gonna happen.
This is not a teenager word. She's
It's
like, no.
just not something a teenager would say these days. I don't know. It's just, Boogie, sure, but.
I had no argument. Like, was what my dad called us. So I was like, I have no teenager arguments. So I had to go back to the drawing board and think about what's something else. And that's when I came up with Shorty, which
And Shorty is perfect. Because I was always really short.
That's
Yeah.
yeah.
And now I'm more. Yeah. I've leveled out. Yeah.
In book 2, which I started writing when she was at Emerson, is really fun because now some of her advice is the comedic timing, because she's a comedic studies major. So she'll take a scene and be like, you could really draw that out. You could really, have it happen and really kind of walk me through how to make it funnier.
True. Or a really easy one to implement is the rule of 3. So, especially with the Juno jokes, also known as boom, when it's like if you have 3 things in a row, the first 2 establish a pattern and then the last one breaks the pattern. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a paucity of critics, but I'm guessing the meowing kittens are wondering if there are going to be cats and kittens in future books that are friends of the puppies or otherwise featured in the story.
Well, let's see. We definitely had a run-in with Elvis, the hairless cat, in this last chapter. And
There's some redemption for Elvis and for Linda.
we can't tell you that. I mean, we can't give spoilers right now. Come on.
And Elvis is a hairless cat because Sophie was obsessed with hairless cats.
I still am. I think they're awesome. If anybody has one, please invite me over. Any other questions? Excellent.
No.
Oh,
Do you have a favorite chapter?
which one of us? Both?
Yeah.
It's a hard question.
I mean, okay, definitely now my favorite chapter is kind of the one we read to you because we've read it a bunch of times now. We read it to some 4th graders out loud, and once you bring something in front of an audience, it really changes how you feel about it and your experiences with it. And so, getting to present it to you guys, a bunch of adults and some college students, and you, wonderful, and you, it's, we love the out loud laughs. The first time we read it out loud, we got the laughs. We were like, oh my God, that's awesome. But we brought it to 84th graders at the Curley School, and they were very serious with it. Thanks to the Porter Square Foundation, they all had books of their own, so they could read along, and they were all very serious, reading along with us through the read aloud, and they were also very literal. Why are you wearing overalls today? It's Friday, and it's supposed to be a Tuesday thing, so yeah. This is now my favorite chapter.
I think my favorite chapter might be the scene at the Boston Globe, which is right near the end, where Sophie has to challenge the Boston Globe and her godmother to think bigger.
Mm-hmm. It's true. That
And to
was
think
really
like a
exciting.
Bonnie, really inspired by Bonnie and the treat drawer.
I love that one. And it was one of my favorites to narrate too, so that's a good answer.
What was it like to work with an illustrator? Were there times where the illustrator had an idea of what something would look like that didn't match your own imagination?
Yeah, the first drafts of the cover, he had read the first chapter and really was captured with the idea of thinking like a dog, which is, you know, what Sophie ends the chapter with. As she moves to Boston, she's going to think like a dog. But I don't think he read past there. So in the book, thinking like a dog is very much a part of thinking and being in community with others. But all the chapter covers were like super lonely. Like somehow Sophie's alone at night walking her dogs, or she's like kind of half girl, half wolf, thinking like a dog. It was just really another look. So I was like,
Really feeling it.
and it was, I've never communicated with the illustrator. Like, it's one of the strange things. Like, the publisher picked out the illustrator and all the communications went through the publisher, who made sure to tell me each time that that I was lucky to have any say in the illustration. And I was knew I was pushing my luck, and I was like, okay, Arthur, I know I'm pushing my luck, but if my character has a pocketbook, like, my head will explode. Like, just work with me here.
And, you know, even in this, you know, in the final draft, there are some things that, you know, since we're here with you, we'll be honest, they just don't really match up to the story, like the very front cover. We have Eleanor and Baba, my Jack Russells, hanging off leash with Bonnie the pug. And in the book, it's very clear Bonnie and the Jack Russells, they don't get along. Because, I mean, us as many dog owners in here, we know our dogs don't always get along with other dogs. I mean, we couldn't bring Summit or the Jack Russells here today because it was going to be too much. So this, I fear, would never happen in the book. But it's okay, you know, because, community! We got it!
Yes.
Did you ever think of publishing the newspaper as an agenda?
My early fantasy was that somehow readers would get the newspaper as well as the book. And I was actually surprised in the illustration, like how little, you can't really read the newspaper. Yeah. But all of the newspapers, the All-Star edition and all of the actual editions are available on the website, thebarkingpuppy.com. And there are also some activity guides for kids who want to do their own dog on the street or draw their own dog classified. So there's a lot of ways for folks to access them, and also for aspiring dog and children reporters to do their own.
Yeah, if you want to see all the 7 editions, and also if you want any children to do those activities, which they're fun, you can do them of any age. They're on thebarkingpuppy.com.
And is the coffee table book also on it?
Not yet. That's a good question. Good question. It is not, but I do have one here. If y'all want to look at the newspaper or the coffee table book, I have issues here. Or you too. Yes.
Have you heard, I'm just curious about any reviews from dogs, any highlights?
There are a couple dog reviews on the back cover, which you're welcome to read, and a couple that haven't made it, but that will be on the website. Yeah, generally getting some good feedback and some real requests. I've gotten a number of requests. I believe a dog named Cyrus is really eager to get a second issue, second book.
When's the movie coming out, you guys?
Just saying, I live in Boston, not Boston.
Oh, very nice. Boston.
Hey, moms, let's go!
Boston, I like it.
When's the movie coming out?
We have no idea. That would be a dream.
That would be fun.
Or the PBS series.
Right?
Yeah, I love the PBS quiz. I know. Imagine if it was an animated series. Now that would be really beautiful.
All right, if there are no more questions, we will be here happy to sign a book for you or a dog or a child or anybody that you would like us to. We also have some dog treats here in case anybody would like to bring them home to your dog. Some of y'all can bring your dogs.
Did you make them?
The dog treats came from our friends at Green Mountain Girls Farm, the same ones that hosted our artist in residence. Thank you.